Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is part 4 of the big book sale book haul. I got so many great books at the big book sale that I had to split this book haul into 4 parts. In this part, I am going to be talking about mysteries, romantic suspense, and some vintage books that I found. And I am super excited about all of these. If you missed the other book, the other parts of the series, I'm going to link them in the cards so you can check out the other books that I found at the big book sale. So let's start with the mysteries. I found some Robert Barnard. I like Robert Barnard. He wrote in the 80s and 90s, and he just kind of wrote basically standalone mysteries, and that was interesting because a lot of authors write in series, but Robert Barnard wrote basically standalones. And so I found Death of a Mystery Writer, Dr. Oliver Farley Stubbs, a writer with a vast public who loved his best-selling mystery novels and a small circle of family and friends who despised him as an obese, overbearing bully, died with distinction while sipping a special liqueur in his luxurious library on the occasion of his 65th birthday, when it's surprised to discover that the son who hated him most had been bequeathed the lion's share of his father's fortune, that Sir Oliver's final manuscript, possibly worth millions, had vanished, and that the demise of a famous mystery writer was clearly a case of murder. This was written in 1978. I also got The Bad Samaritan. When Rosemary Sheffield suddenly loses her religious faith, it is not merely a personal matter for her, for she is the wife of a vicar. And when, on a brief holiday to think things through, she forms a sad but affectionate relationship with a young refugee from the former Yugoslavia, she ensures that the knives will be out for her in her husband's parish book home in Leeds, for charity is not the order of the day among the parishioners of St. Saviour's. When a body is found after church fete, it is up to DC Charlie Peace and his boss to discover whether Rosemary's spiritual crisis has led to murder, or is it more worldly concerns that lie at the root of the crime. The Bad Samaritan was published in 1995. And then the last one that I got from Robert Barnard is Death and the Chaste Apprentice. Des Capper, landlord of Saracen's Head, a splendid Elizabethan inn, has been called a boor, a snoop, and other things not fit to print. Currently, he is provoking his newest arrivals, the performance of the Catterick Arts Festival, as rowdy a group as ever trod the boards. Des thought knowledge was power and was busily digging up secrets to get someone good. The brilliant conductor with the Casanova complex, the gorgeous Russian soprano with a taste for bit players, the theatrical couple with a marriage so open it had a revolving door, all of them and scads of others soon had the urge to kill Des. Finally, someone did, but why would be the best kept secret of all. This one was published in 1989. All right, this one just caught my eye. I have never heard of this author, but this is just the way it goes in book sales, isn't it? This is Dmitri and the One-Legged Lady by Michael Pearce. He only wrote 2 books in this series, and this was published in 1999. A dreamy province in Tsarist Russia. An ambitious young lawyer of Scottish-Russian descent anxious to make his way. And the one-legged lady, one of the most important icons in the district, goes missing. Exactly how important she is, the skeptical Dimitri, whose task it is to track her down, comes to see. Who has taken her and why? Is it someone interested in adding to his art collection? Is it the monastery cashing in on its assets? Or has it something to do with a wave of popular feeling at a time of famine? The sinister Volkov from the Tsar's Corps of Gentlemen suspects the latter, which means trouble for some innocent people unless Dmitri gets there first. So that just looked fun. Aunty Lee's Chilled Revenge by Ovidia Yu. I've been reading Ovidia Yu's Crown Colony series, which takes place in Singapore in the 1930s, and I really love it. This is a modern day series that takes place in Singapore, and this is actually the third one in the series. Aunty Lee, her real name is Rosie, feisty widow, amateur sleuth, and proprietor of Singapore's best-loved home cooking restaurant, is back in another delectable, witty mystery set in Singapore. And then I found a couple books by Colin Watson. These are from his Flaxborough Chronicles. Colin Watson is a mystery writer who is most famous for the Flaxborough Chronicles, typified by their comic and dry wit. This is number 5 in the series, published in 1968. Charity Ends at Home. A mysterious letter has arrived at the offices of certain Flaxborough officials. The notepaper is expensive. The woman who wrote it was scared. I am in great danger, the letter began. The person whose faithful companion I have been, to whom even now my life is dedicated, intends to have me done away with. It ended by explaining that the woman could not sign her name for reasons you will understand, and that a photograph was included. But Detective Inspector Pirbright did not understand, and no photograph was enclosed. The letter could have indicated sheer paranoia. It could have been a hoax, but it wasn't. It was a prediction of a murder. And then number 6 in the series from 1969 is Just What the Doctor Ordered. This was also called the Flaxborough Crab. Flaxborough was scandalized. 3 sexual assaults in 3 nights, and the terrified victims could only recall one thing. Their attacker had fled sideways, almost like a scalded crab. What could have caused such bizarre behavior? Inspector Pirbright's investigation would take him from a local herb farm to the top of the British medical profession, from an amateur detective with a fair share of feminine intuition to a desperate doctor with a prescription for murder. And then another author I have never heard of, but I thought for $1 it was worth giving it a try. This is Death in Time by Mignon Warner. This is a Mrs. Charles mystery. The author was born in Australia but moved to England. This is the 3rd in the series, and it was written in 1982. One thing that I found fascinating when I was investigating this author is this series, this Miss Charles series, started in 1976, and these are the years that she wrote the books in this series: 76, 78, 82, 82, 83, 84, 85, 94, 08, 08, 2012, 2015, 2018, and 2021. So she wrote a book in this series, the first book in this series, in 1976, and then she wrote another in the series, the last in the series, in 2021. Isn't that interesting? All right. It was a fatal mistake for Nigel Playford to bring his beautiful sister Cynthia to the Magicians' Convention at the small seaside hotel in Wales. She had no talent at all for sleight of hand and an absolute genius for making enemies. Before the curtain could rise on the main event, she managed to upstage the entire performance by getting herself killed. Piecing together the clues, police investigator Walsh and insurance investigator David Sayer constructed a tidy picture of the murderer, until Mrs. Charles, aka Madame Adele Herman, professional clairvoyant and amateur sleuth, conjured a very different vision and made the disturbing prediction that the murderer was about to strike again. Interesting. The 12th Juror by B.M. Gill, winner of the Crime Writers Association Gold Dagger Award. So I thought that was very interesting. I always pay attention when I see the Crime Writers Association giving out an award. This was first published in 1984. On trial is Edward Carn, accused of murdering his wife. On the jury are 11 dedicated and unbiased men and women, and a 12th, Robert Quinn, who should not be there at all. The evidence put before the jury is tantalizingly inconclusive, and the accused is conspicuously absent from the witness box. All this is confusing enough, but what of Robert Quinn's obsessive involvement in the trial, an obsession he will not, and indeed cannot, reveal? Doesn't that sound interesting? Yes, please. I found a Gideon book. J.J. Marric wrote the Superintendent Gideon series. This is the last one in the series, Gideon's Drive. This was published in 1976. And these are a pretty famous police procedural series where Gideon is a superintendent at Scotland Yard. I'm also collecting Robert Goddard. I've read a couple of his books. I own far more than I have read. But this is Caught in the Light, 1998. On assignment in Vienna, photographer Ian Jarrett falls in love with a woman he meets by chance, Marion Esgard. Back in England, he leaves his wife and goes to meet Marion, only for her to vanish from his life as mysteriously as she entered it. Searching for the woman for whom he has sacrificed everything, Jarrett comes across a Dorset churchyard full of gravestones of dead Esgards. He also meets a psychotherapist, Daphne Sanger. She too is looking for someone, a former client who believes she is the reincarnation of Marion Esgard, who may have invented photography 10 years before Fox Talbot. But why is Marion Esgard unknown to history? And who and where is the woman Jarrett met in Vienna? Jarrett sets out to solve a mystery whose origins lie amid the magical singing properties of early photography. But at the end of his search, a trap awaits him. He is caught in a web of deception, woven between the enigmas of the past and the revenges of the present, and there is no way out. This one sounded intriguing. I love photography. I find it fascinating. I also found another in the Wesley Peterson series by Kate Ellis. This is The Skeleton Room. Wesley Peterson is a detective with the police force, but he has a friend who is an archaeologist, and so there was always some element of archaeology in this series. When builders converting a former girls' school, Chadley Hall, into a luxury hotel, discover a skeleton in a sealed room, D.I. Wesley Peterson and his boss, Geoffrey Heffernan, are called in to investigate. And then I found Reginald Hill's On Beulah Height. I'm collecting Reginald Hill, and I had not got this one yet, and I really wanted it because this is so far my favorite in the DL and Pascoe series, which is a police procedural series set in Yorkshire. And On Beulah Height is fascinating. 3 little girls, one by one, had vanished from the farming village of Dendale, and Superintendent Andy DL, a young detective in those days, never found their bodies, or the person who snatched them. Then, the valley where Dendale stood was flooded to create a reservoir, and the town itself ceased to be, except in DL's memory. 12 years later, the threads of past and present are slowly winding into a chilling mosaic. A drought and dropping water table have brought Dendale's ruins into view, and a little girl has gone missing from a nearby village. Helped by Chief Inspector Peter Pascoe, an older, fatter, and wiser DL has a second chance to uncover the secrets of a drowned valley, and now the identity of a killer rests on what one child saw and what another, now grown, fears with all her heart she'll remember. Then I've never heard of this author, but this one looked intriguing, so I thought I would give it a shot. This is A Child's Garden of Death by Richard Forrest. This was published in 1975. Leon Wentworth's heart pounded as he looked in the shallow grave. Before his horrified eyes lay the moldering remains of a man, woman, and child, all brutally murdered. Who were they? Why had they been killed? And after 30 long years, who cared? Leon cared very much. The sight of the little girl still clutching her doll made him swear to find the truth if it was the last thing he ever did, and a corrupt, powerful killer intended to make sure it was. I did some research, and apparently Leon Wentworth is a children's book author and an amateur sleuth, so that just sounded really interesting. I found a Mrs. Pollifax on the China Station by Dorothy Gilman. This is from 1983, and in this one, Mrs. Pollifax gets sent to China. I love Mrs. Pollifax. She's retired, and then she gets herself hired by the CIA. It's just brilliant. All right, and then I found Geoffrey Household, Hostage, London. Now, this isn't normally the type of book that I go for. This is one that maybe my husband would be more interested in reading, but I had heard the name Geoffrey Household. He is famous for rogue mail, and so I just thought that I would grab it. This was written in 1977. Magma International, ruthless anarchists. Their aim, revolution through fear. Their weapon, an atom bomb hidden somewhere in the heart of London. Operating under the guise of a publisher's salesman, Julia Despard is a loyal member of Magma until he discovers the mass murder plot threatening London. Breaking with his former comrades, he sets out to prevent the catastrophe even as the terrorist blackmail of Downing Street begins. But will he be able to locate and defuse the bomb before Scotland Yard arrests him? Before Magma itself finds and kills him? Dun, dun, dun. And then I found Aunty Poldi and the Fruits of the Lord by Mario Giordano. This is number 2 in the Aunty Poldi series, and I haven't read this one yet, so I was so excited to find this one. This is a mystery that is set in Sicily. Aunty Poldi is 60 years old, and she is feisty and awesome, and I love this series, and this has been translated from the German by John Brownjohn. Okay, and then I found 2 from the Vishpuri series, Vishpuri Most Private Investigator. This is a mystery series set in India. This is The Case of the Man Who Died Laughing by Tarquin Hall. This is number 2 in the series. And The Case of the Deadly Butter Chicken. This is number 3 in the series. Number 2 in the series was written in 2010. This is a series that I've wanted to read, so when I found them, these books look basically brand new. So I snatched them up, and I want to give these ones a try. They just look so fun. And then I found The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osmond. I couldn't believe it that it was still there when we went to this book sale and why it hadn't been snatched up. I mean, this was $2. I've already read The Thursday Murder Club, but I love it and I would totally read it again, so I was excited to find that. Okay, let's move into some romantic suspense that I found. I found 6 Phyllis Whitneys. Now, Phyllis Whitney wrote in, I don't know, the 60s and 70s. Yeah, this one is from 1964. Sea Jade. I'm just getting into Phyllis Whitney, but she writes romantic suspense that just sound great, and in the tradition of Daphne du Maurier and Mary Stuart, so why not, right? According to the Miami Herald, Sea Jade evokes the same atmosphere of shuddering mystery as a ruined castle in the moonlight or an old London street wrapped in winter fog. There is always something just beyond the edge of vision, waiting to pounce. That sounds awesome. And I also found The Winter People, 7 Tears for Apollo, which is set in Greece. Mystery of the Haunted Pool. Now this one is actually a scholastic, so did Phyllis Whitney write any books for children or teenagers? If you know, let me know in the comment section because I'm very interested to find that out. The Ebony Swan and Silver Hill. So I'm very excited about the Phyllis Whitneys that I have found, and I want to read all of them. I also found this Joan Aiken, A Cluster of Separate Sparks, which was also published as Butterfly Picnic from 1972. I've read a number of books by Joan Aiken, but most of them have been sequels to Jane Austen's books, so I was pretty excited to find that she wrote this romantic suspense. She had come to Greece in search of a job, and within hours she met the mysterious man who had power over all their lives. Doesn't that sound fantastic? All right, and then I found this Victoria Holt, The Mask of the Enchantress. This is from 1980, and look at this. This is just so good. Isn't that so good? It's so cheesy, I love it. Maitland Castle, From the shelter of the tropical island which is her home, Sue Ellen Maitland still remembers the castle as a fairy palace, fascinating and forbidden. The arrival of Susanna from Maitland is unexpected and delightful, but Susanna is like the volcano that dominates the island, stirring into life old jealousies and new conflicts. When tragedy strikes, it is to the castle that Sue Ellen must return, and to become mistress of Maitland, she must wear the mask of the enchantress, a fragile disguise, and one which will lead her into mortal danger. Isn't that great? And then I found another Velda Johnston, The People from the Sea. I have a number of hers as well. She wrote in the 70s and 80s. This is from 1979. Diana was drawn instantly to the charming old beach house in the Hamptons, even though it was David's former mistress who had found it for her. Alone one night, Diana was startled from her sleep by soft laughter, voices, eerie piano music, and the Woodhall ghosts, mother, teenage daughter, and Derek, strikingly handsome in his army uniform. They had come back because of Diana, and because of their boating accident, and because their boating accident had not been an accident at all, but murder. Ooh. Okay, now let's get into some of the vintage ones that I found. I found Scoop by Evelyn Hua, and this is his novel of journalists. He wrote this in 1938, and unsurprisingly, this edition is from 1979. Isn't that fantastic? I found The Gleam in the North by D.K. Broster. I had never heard of this author before, but this was originally published in 1927, and it's the second in a Jacobite trilogy. So this is historical fiction set in Scotland during the time of the Jacobites. So I was super excited to find this. I found Mrs. Eris Goes to Moscow by Paul Gallico. I've heard of the Mrs. Eris series from Kate Howe, and I knew of Mrs. Eris Goes to Paris, which is the first one. So I don't know where this stands in the series, but She Goes to Moscow, which just sounds amazing to me. This was published in 1974, which is the year that I was born. So I just thought that made it perfect. Many people have tried to conquer Moscow and all have failed. But now a new chapter in history was about to be written. On a gleaming new Russian jet, Mrs. Eris was about to arrive. And Lenin would have turned over in his glass coffin if he knew what this indomitable lady was going to do as she launched her one-woman war to bring a pair of star-crossed red lovers together again, even if she had to take the Kremlin apart. Doesn't that sound amazing? Okay, and then I found 4 Francis Parkinson Kais, and these editions, I mean, come on, aren't these amazing? I found Blue Camellia from 1957, and this one is set in Louisiana. Doesn't that look amazing? I found All That Glitters from 1941, and this one is set in Washington, D.C. Honor Bright from 1936, and this one is set in Virginia and Washington. And then Dinner at Antoine's, which is set in New Orleans and was published in 1948. So yeah, I was pretty excited to find those editions. I found an Elizabeth Googe, Green Dolphin Street. I've heard about this, also from Kate Howe. This was originally published in 1944. A famous bestseller, A Haunting Love Story. From Elizabeth Googe comes an overpowering story of quenchless love, of William, whose hypnotic masculine presence made 2 women adore him. of Marianne, moody, passionate, brilliant, by whom William was both fascinated and repelled, of Marguerite, Marianne's beautiful sister, whom William wanted with all his heart. They had both loved him for years. Now they were waiting for him to return from his journeys and claim his bride. I found a couple Georgette Hare. Georgette Hare wrote Regency romances. This is Devil's Cub. Doesn't that look fantastic? This just makes me think of Persuasion, actually, that little cover. Devil's Cub is from 1932, and These Old Shades, which is from 1926. And then I found a P.G. Wodehouse. This is Carry On Jeeves. This is a collection of short stories, Jeeves and Worcester short stories. And then I found Daphne du Maurier's Frenchman's Creek. Let me show you, I'll show you this. This is a Ryerson Press, which is a Canadian publishing house, from 1942, which is, it looks like it was originally published in 1941, and this edition is from 1942, and I'm super excited to have it. So that's Frenchman's Creek. So there you have it. Those are the last of the books that I found at the big book sale. Oh my goodness. I love the big book sale, and I'm so excited that they brought it back. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these books, if any of these books look intriguing to you. I love to chat with you, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.